What is going on, everybody? Car Guy V8 here, and today I'm going to talk about an oil pressure fluctuation issue that I was having with one of my small block Chevys. And I'm going to tell you what I did to solve that issue. But first, let's talk about the engine in question. This is a 355 cubic inch small block Chevy. It started life as a Vortec 350, and when I got it, it had no cylinder heads on it because it had blown a head gasket and all the bearings were scored. So I sent it off to my buddies at Best Engines, and they put together a new rotating assembly for me. You know, they magnafluxed the block, cleaned it, bored it out, and when I got it back, it was a fresh bottom end with flat top pistons, minus the oil pan, minus the cam, minus the heads. I did all of that stuff. And I built this engine for my old square body, which many of you might remember. Now, I did a 500-mile break-in period on this engine, and during that time, I treated the engine pretty well. You know, only mild accelerations, nothing crazy up until that 500 RPM mark. Once I hit that, I started to drive it a little more aggressively in this truck. The truck had 273 gears. It had 308 gears, so it had really long gears with a turbo 400. So I never went above 5,500 RPMs with it the whole time I had it in the truck. I put about 1,300 miles on it. And the reason I'm telling y'all that is I never caught this oil pressure fluctuation issue whenever it was in the truck. So after I pulled it out of the truck, I put it in my Camaro, which I drove my Camaro and still drive my Camaro a whole lot harder than I ever did that truck. It's a straight up muscle car with 456 gears. So right after putting this engine in that car, I realized how good this engine actually is. It pulls and will continue pulling past 6,000 RPMs. And I drove probably 50, 60 miles, maybe 10, 12 different times with different friends, just showing what this car could do before I ever caught this issue. So that leads us to the issue. Let me show you this video clip. Real quickly, I want to thank my friend Rhett for recording that footage, because if he hadn't gotten those gauges in the video, I very well could have spun a bearing before I ever realized there was anything wrong with that engine. So if you think about it, you know, you're sitting there driving, you look down, oil pressure is just fine. You know, you give it a quick little pull, you look down after the pull, oil pressure's fine. Because you're driving a machine like that, you know, you got to pay attention to the road. You can't just be looking down the whole time you're driving or anything, so you may never even realize anything's wrong until something blows up or spins a bearing, throws a rod, whatever, which luckily that did not happen. But now let me tell y'all what I believe the issue was. So let's watch that video one more time. So I believe this to be a twofold issue. Number one, whenever I was originally measuring the oil pump pickup tube depth, I'm thinking I must have got it just a little too close to the oil pan. Because you'll notice as the pull starts, the oil pressure fluctuates a little bit, you know, goes down some, but not a whole lot, and kind of stays there. And I'm thinking that's due to vacuum between the pickup tube and the bottom of the oil pan. I'm thinking it's just a little too close. And as the pull continues, you'll see eventually I get up to 6 grand. And as I do that, you'll notice that the oil pressure starts to drastically drop, like even hitting 25 PSI at one point. You're talking about 25 PSI at over 5,000 RPMs. That's unacceptable. And I believe at this point in the pull had lasted long enough and had gone to high enough RPM that I think I may have drained all of the oil out of the oil pan, mixed with the pickup tube being a little too close. I think it was a twofold issue there, causing all of that oil pressure fluctuation. So after noticing this, I started to drive the car a whole lot easier until eventually I got a chance to pull the engine. And I did two things. Number one, I switched to a 7-quart oil pan, so it holds a lot more oil. And I had to get a new oil pump anyway, so I got a high volume one, not a high pressure one, a high volume oil pump. And I made 100% sure that it was, you know, a good distance from the bottom of the oil pan. Here's my most current footage. that last pull that I did, the oil was fully up to temperature, and as you can see, it was just a perfect pull. Stayed right over 60 the whole time. I could not be happier with that oil pan and the high volume oil pump. Now, a note about the high volume oil pump. Running the same oil as I was before. This is 10W30 Castrol oil. It's a roller cam, so no zinc additives or anything like that. But the oil pressure is always 10 psi higher at every RPM. Whether you're cruising, idle, it stays right at about 10 psi higher than the old standard volume pump. And so this has completely eliminated any oil pressure issues. The engine's healthy. Luckily, I caught all this before it got too far, needed to be rebuilt or anything like that. That would have sucked on that fresh bottom end. But what do y'all think, guys? Y'all think my hypothesis is correct, that it is, in fact, a stock oil pan mixed with just the pickup tube being too close? Or do you think I'm wrong on that? Give me some criticism here, guys. Let me know what you think. But regardless, it is 100% on now. Perfect. Oil pressure never fluctuates. I actually, before I made this video, I drove it about 28, 29 miles, did one final pull, just street driving, no craziness, but one final pull before getting to the house. Oil pressure, perfect. Couldn't be happier. So guys, the deeper oil pan, and this was just the Summit oil pan. So it wasn't a high dollar one or anything, just a Summit 7-quart oil pan, and I'm happy with it. The car's happy, and I can go to $6,000 or even more now without worrying about a thing. So guys, thank y'all for watching. Let me know what you think.